Next on the speaker list is Michael Ermisch from the German payer GKV-Spitzenverband. So you see in the, let's say, in the sequence of the presentations this morning, we started out with regulatory, had the patients looked into IFA as a key HTA body, and now it's a payer perspective that is represented by Michael Ermisch, a pharmacologist from the German GKV-Spitzenverband. Thanks very much for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you for inviting me. The pleasure of being that late on the panel is that a lot of things that I wanted to say have already been said, and I can refer to my previous speakers, which will also help me stick with the time frame. So maybe I'm going to be up. Well, let me start with when we first read the HTA proposal from the European Commission, there was a big meeting in our organization to decide how do we, in principle, relate to that. Shall we say, no, this is nothing, it's a national thing we do here, and no way that the European Commission is going to interfere with that? Or shall we say, well, in principle, this is the correct way to go, and we need to shape it? And we decided to go the last way, to say, well, this is a thing that will happen sooner or later, and we need to make it work. And we see chances in there, chances with having more organizations that work together and therefore share efforts, not duplicating efforts and everything, and also having a look on how our organization and our sister organization in Germany evolved, with how many people are working on assessments, knowing that, well, there is a financial barrier, how much we can afford, and if we share efforts, then this will surely help us, also knowing that the pitfalls will be in the details, and now with only no more than almost 2 years to come, we see where those details are and where those pitfalls are, and we are, well, also a bit nervous about, will this work, how will it work for us, because we've got a lot to lose as a payer. We are the prime customer for HTA. We are the ones who work with the assessments, and so we need to make sure that what we get is up for purpose, and we also need to make sure that we don't make a system that is so big that it fails on the way, and therefore we also need to look into the details, which of the things we usually now require are really important, which are optional, are there things where we can, well, lose feathers on the way, and are things where we must make sure that we will not lose feathers. And this is where we're thinking about, which is what we are discussing right now, knowing when you look at the timetable, this is the middle, and also the coming into force is not really from now on the middle of the process. We know that when in 2023 all new active substances go into the joint clinical assessments, we will still have some 10 years where old products will be in the national process, which for us means, well, we have to, about from now on, almost, let me just think, 20 years where we have two processes in parallel, which both need to work and which may not contradict each other. So whatever we change for making our system fit for European HTA must also apply to our national HTA, and that's, well, going to be challenging. And thus, we know the service contract is to end in September 2023 with UNETA 21. We have seen what has already been delivered, and we see what is to be delivered. And to be honest, what we've seen makes us quite happy. We think that it's something we can work on. Not everything we wanted is in there, but that was not to be expected. But on the gross scale, it's quite good. And we've also seen that the coordination group has been set up. We've heard about that. The subgroups will be set up next week, and so we're going to see that the handover within those months will be smooth, and hope for all this to come. So I think I can skip over that. That was just to present some details about what UNETA 21 has been delivered and is to be delivering, but, well, I think you all know that. And maybe just skip to our national process. I think everyone coming from our organizations and all the other German organizations has shown this slide one way or the other, so maybe most of you have already seen it. But for us, maybe it's the thing how we connect to this, where we see the problems. We see that when 30 days, or I heard just the day before yesterday, 40 days after marketing authorization, because there are 10 days for the European Commission that nobody, we did not recognize until I heard that, will have the final report. We'll have a time frame where we need to look into that and see, well, what is in there? What do we need in addition? Can we pre-plan what we will need in addition, all these analysis? And then do we need additional requirements? And is the company up to give them to us within the then coming time frame, because it's going to be different to what we're used to that. And if we've come to a way, maybe not in 2025, but in the nearer future, where you say almost everything that we need is within the joint HTA report, can we maybe shorten our national periods to make the system more smooth, to, well, do not double work on them? And so one question is for us, there will be joint scientific consultations where we define all this together with scientific advice. What will be the focus of these? How much will there be in there? How many of these consultations will be possible? And how can we complement or can we show at this point of time what will be to be complemented for the national context? Because the earlier we give this information to the company, the better it may be implemented and the better they can be prepared for whatever comes afterwards. And this is something which from our point of view is currently only defined fuzzily, and we're going to wait for the details how this will come up. The next thing is then when the marketing authorization has been filed, we need to go through scoping process. And we need to define how early can we start with the scoping process to be able to do it properly on a national level and then compile it, put all together on the European level, give it to the company to give them enough time to prepare their dossier. Is there enough time? Will it not only, and that's what we assume, it will be the joint scientific consultations that will define the PICO, and this will probably only be the last point where we say this is still valid, or in random or rare cases, this is no more valid because X, Y, Z has happened. That's because otherwise it's going to be really tough for everybody to do it properly. But still, how early can we do it, and what compromises can we define on a national level for our representatives in the committee, which they can go, because currently the scoping process is already method. It's a pathway to follow, and honestly, at least from the German system, our representatives will not have the leeway to go to do anything that has not been commissioned early on a national level. And I think almost every country has the same situation, so we need to be able to define that in advance, and thus it's really good we're practicing right now to learn where are the pitfalls here and see where we come to. Then, I already mentioned that, once all the processes are in, can we shorten our national processes? Can we do anything? Because, and I mean, that's something you never know, we're payers, we're talking about paying for these things. And maybe if everything can be shortened and the HTA assessment is there earlier than it is now in the national process, and we can say this is valid and you know what to expect, we can also apply our prices earlier, which for us is always a value of its own. And so there's a lot of in there, there's a lot of insecurity on the way, but we're still optimistic that it's going to work out, knowing the first 2 or 3 or 4 processes will be, yeah, there will be things to learn. So I say thank you and looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Michael, for your excellent and insightful presentation.